Sometimes the dirtiest roads lead to the brightest destinations. The world rarely looks twice at the son of a street cleaner. People see him only as a shadow of poverty, someone born to remain invisible, destined to live and die in the dust. But little did they know, in the broken hands of a boy pushing his father's broom lay the heart of a fighter, and in his hungry eyes burned the dream of saving lives. Armand was born in the narrow lanes of an old city, where the air always smelled of dust and sweat, and the roads were stained with mud and garbage. His father, Nasir, was a street cleaner who worked before sunrise, sweeping away the filth that others threw carelessly. His mother washed clothes in nearby houses, her hands always cracked and bruised from the cold water. They lived in a small tin-roofed hut that leaked whenever it rained. At night, Armand could hear the raindrops hitting the metal sheets like an endless drum. Sometimes water dripped onto his bed, but he never complained. Poverty had taught him silence. Every morning, Armand accompanied his father. Barefoot and hungry, he would walk beside him as Nasir swept the roads. The people passing by never looked at them. If they did, it was only with disgust. Children from richer families held their noses when they walked past. "Don't go near them," they whispered. "They are dirty people." But Armand's eyes were not on them. His gaze always drifted to the hospital at the end of the street. He would stop sweeping for a moment just to watch the doctors in white coats entering the building. Their calm faces, their confidence, the way people respected them. It felt like another universe, so far from the stinking roads he stood on. One evening, while returning home, Armand asked his father softly, "Abba, what do doctors do?" Nasir, tired and drenched in sweat, smiled faintly. "They save lives, beta. When people are sick, doctors give them hope." Armand's eyes lit up. "One day, Abba, I will also save lives. I want to be a doctor." Nasir stopped walking. For a moment, he just stared at his little boy. He knew the weight of the world would crush this dream. A street cleaner's son becoming a doctor? It was like asking the sun to rise from the west, yet he couldn't bring himself to kill that spark in his child's heart. He placed a trembling hand on Armand's head and whispered, "If your heart is pure and your effort is strong, maybe Allah will open a way." From that day, the boy carried a fire inside him. But dreams are heavy when carried on hungry shoulders. At school, Armand sat in the back row. His uniform was torn and his shoes had holes. The other children mocked him. "Doctor?" They laughed. "You will clean the streets like your father, nothing more." Their words cut deeper than knives, but Armand remained silent. He had learned early that silence can be stronger than arguments. At night, when others slept, Armand studied under the dim light of a candle. Sometimes there was no candle, and he memorized lessons from books under the street lamp outside. His stomach often growled with hunger, but he fed his mind with hope. His mother would quietly place half a piece of bread before him and whisper, "Eat, my son, your books are your real meal." Years passed like this, dust by day, dreams by night. One winter morning, tragedy struck. Nasir fell sick. The man who had spent his entire life cleaning the streets was now too weak to even stand. There was no money for treatment, no relatives to help. Armand watched helplessly as his father coughed endlessly on the bed. He ran to the hospital begging doctors to treat him, but without money they turned him away. "We are sorry," they said, "we cannot admit him." That night, Armand held his father's frail hand and whispered, "Abba, I promise. I will become the kind of doctor who never refuses the poor." Nasir, with tears in his tired eyes, nodded. A few weeks later, Armand's father passed away. The pain carved itself into Armand's soul, but it did not break him. Instead, it hardened his resolve. He worked harder than ever, sometimes cleaning streets himself before school just to support his family. After long, exhausting days, he still studied with the same burning passion. When board exams came, Armand's teachers doubted him. "He's too poor, too distracted," they said. But when the results were announced, his name was on top. The boy who studied under streetlights had outshone the children who mocked him. Newspapers carried his picture, calling him the miracle boy of the slums. But the battle was only half won. Medical college was a mountain far taller than he had ever climbed. Fees were high and the world was merciless. For days, Armand walked from office to office, begging for scholarships, pleading for support. Most doors closed in his face. Yet one small charity saw his determination and gave him a chance. With their help, he entered medical school. The journey there was even harder. Surrounded by students from rich families, Armand often felt like a stranger. They had laptops, fancy books, and tutors, while he barely had money for a single notebook. But whenever self-doubt whispered in his ear, he remembered his father's cough, his mother's tired hands, and the hospital doors that once closed on them. Those memories fueled his every step. He studied day and night, sometimes skipping meals, sometimes fainting from exhaustion. There were nights when he cried silently into his pillow, wondering if he would ever make it. But each morning he rose stronger. Years later, the impossible happened. Arman, the son of a street cleaner, graduated as a doctor. The day he received his degree, he looked up at the sky, tears streaming down his face. "Abba, this is for you," he whispered. Soon he opened a small clinic in the same neighborhood where he once swept streets. People who had once mocked him now stood in long lines outside his door. But unlike the doctors who once turned his father away, Arman never refused anyone. Rich or poor, every patient was treated with dignity. One afternoon, a little boy came to him, barefoot and hungry, carrying his father's broom. He reminded Arman of himself. The boy whispered, "Dr. Sahab, I also want to be like you one day." Arman smiled, placed a gentle hand on his head and said, "Dream as high as the sky, beta. No road is too dirty to walk if your destination is bright." And in that moment, the son of a street cleaner became more than just a doctor. He became a living reminder that no dream is too big, no background too small, and no hardship too powerful to kill the fire of determination.